look at some code and try to understand indexes. Okay, so let's go here. We're not going to deal with test cases for this example. I'm more interested in students understanding how to get one character from a string and how to create a string, which is very simple. I just showed you, right? So, but now we're doing it with code. Okay, it's taking its time. It's still okay. Outline. Okay, I'm not sure where it was taken. So it's still thinking. Maybe here. Okay, yeah. Sorry, I was expanding the incorrect one. So let's go to strings. And we're just in main, just trying to understand the basic functionality of strings. So we're like, okay, let's create that same example. Lang equals C++. Okay, that is the same as double quote. So double quote or single quote works. Sequence of characters, and that should be a pound sign. Okay. So that's how we create one string, and we can access individual characters by using indexes, which always start at 0. So if we want to access C, we do this piece here. So lang at index 0, and we can print. So down here, notice we get value C. So if we want, we'll get to a loop eventually, but for now we're just trying to understand the basics. And I'll go ahead and access the last one, 2. So we have C++. So we have code lang print the lang variable index 0, index 1, index 2, and notice we get C++. If we go back to the diagram, so we're accessing C++. What if we try to access index 3, right? So we're like, oh, so let me try to access index 3, and we run the piece here in code. And notice, like, we get some issue. It's saying index out of range. So this index's range is 0, 1, 2. And if we access something less than 0 or more than 2, then we get that error. And now with this diagram, hopefully you can understand why, right? We're trying to access beyond the limits of the string. So that's why it's like, it returns an error, because it's like, hey, wait a minute, like my max index is 2 and you're trying to access 3, okay? And that doesn't work like that. So let's go here and we eliminate this one, right? So I guess I'll do this, and I'll say like try to access an out of range index, right? So in this case, we know it's 0, 1, 2. We try to access 3, we get into that issue. Okay. Now we can also do print len, which is length of something, the length of lang, and let's see what we get. So let me clear. So we're interested in the last output. So down here we get the value 3. So the length of this string is 3. So we can go here and it's like, oh, so index 0, 1, 2 and length are different. Yes. So they are different, meaning index. But then we can also have size. So size would be 1, 2, 3, right? As we've learned since grade school, like we start at 1, but indexes always start at 0. So here we're like size 3, size 2. So we can always say that in the max index is always size minus 1, right? That's always the max index. So we get the max length of the string, and it'll always be size minus 1. Why is that important? Because it'll help us with the looping piece, right? Now we know the rules for string, and we can be like, oh, so now we can create a loop for accessing string values. And how do we do that, right? So we're like, okay, let me save this. This was just to introduce strings. I wanted to make it very simple. So now we'll write some functions, okay? So commit, yes. Close others, and let's go to the strings py file. And let's create def loop string with while. We get some str, so some value. And now knowing what we learned here, we're like, okay, the size is 1, 2, 3, and the index is 0, 1, 2. Can we find the size of a string? Yes, I showed you with this code, length of string, right? So we're like, oh, okay, so good. So we know that. So if we go to the code, we need an index. So we'll say index equals 0. Why is it index equals 0? We're just looking at information we already know. So indexes start at 0, so we're like, okay, index equals 0. Now we're like, we want to iterate or loop the string, but we do not want to go beyond the index. And we know that we can safeguard against that by the formula size minus 1 and with the keyword or the key function len, length, right? So we're like, okay, so size equals len of str. Size of the string. So now we can create a loop, right? We can say while something, and we can just say print, right? We'll print what? str. What variable do we use in here? Index. So we're going to be changing index, right? And then we can say index equal index plus 1, or the shortcut we can say index plus equal 1, which is the same thing, plus equal 1. Add 1 to whatever the current value of index is. Now all we need to do is set up the Boolean expression, and that's while index less than size. Why? So we go back over here. Is 0 less than 1? Is 0 less than 1? Is 0 less than 3? Yes. Is 1 less than 3? Yes. Is 2 less than 3? Yes. Is 3 less than 3? No. So we'll never go beyond and try to access some other location, right? So that's why understanding how it's laid out in memory, and now we can apply it to code, and we can try out this example to see if it's going to work for us. So we go back here. We can eliminate all of this here, maybe except for the first one. Here, and we need to import strings. So we import strings, and then we say strings dot loop string with while. What string? lang, or the lang string. Let me clear this piece here. Clear. And let's go here. So notice C++. Okay. Easy enough, but to make sure we understand, we will trace the code line by line, loop by loop, so that we understand what's going on. Questions here so far? Okay, so we have that example, and we will create a table that it shows the value of each variable in each iteration. So we know we need the loops, right? The number of loops. And then we will trace the value of index. And we will trace the value of size. And we will trace index less than size. So index less than size. And then we will trace the value of str index, right? So str index. Okay, and let's get started. So loop number 1. What's the value of index? 0. We set it to 0, so 0. What's the value of size? Size equals to the length of the string. What string are we using? We're using lang equals C++. So the length of the string is 1, 2, 3, 3. So is 0 less than 3? Yes. So now we want to access the variable str right here, right? So we pass in that value into there, so that's where we're using str. str of index, so that's str at value 0. That one gives us value C, and it displays it to screen. And then we have this statement here, which says whatever the value of the statement here, whatever the value of index is, add 1 to it. So in the second iteration, index is 1. Size is still 3, and then we have is 1 less than 3? Yes. So now we want to access what? str at index 1, and that is value plus. That's displayed to screen. Before it goes on to the next loop, we say index plus equals 1. So by the time we are in the third iteration, this has value 2. Index has value 2. The size is still 3. So then we're like 2. Is 2 less than 3? Yes. So now we're like str at index what? 2. 0, 1, 2. Right? So it's still plus. And before we go on to the fourth iteration, we increment index plus 1. So 2 plus 1 is 3. This one's still 3. Is 3 less than 3? False. So then this statement does not execute. Our loop ends. And that's what's happening when we are looping with a while loop. Questions here? Okay, so no questions. So let's stop.